The former president is expected at some point to testify, as are his sons and potentially former attorney Michael Cohen. Alex Miller, Scripps News, New York.
Alex, thank you very much. I want to go now to Chandelle Summer, an attorney with the Summer Law Firm. She has served as both an assistant DA and assistant public defender before starting private practice about 35 years ago. Chandelle has also tried hundreds of criminal trials in cases as well before juries. Chandelle, what was your takeaway from today's opening statements in New York?
I thought that it was a good day for the Trump sound bites. I feel as though he's making the point, which is a good point, that this is a victimless crime, that the only people who really should be complaining about it are the banks, because they are supposedly the ones that were bilked out of millions of dollars in interest and profits from his loans. But there's no allegation that he ever didn't pay the loans or that the loans were in default. It was simply the fact that they say that he over-exaggerated the values of some of his properties on statements of financial condition. That's a slippery slope, in my opinion, because assets are valued in different ways for different purposes. You can have a value for an estate, for example, which might be higher than a fair market value.
But Chandelle, let me push back before you continue, because I know there are people out there that are thinking right now, I have a 5,000 square foot house, and I tell the bank I have a 20,000 square foot house, and the bank says, you know what, because you have a 20,000 square foot house, I'm going to lend you $2 million instead of $200,000. You know, the bank may get its money back, and I may pay that loan back, but a lot of people say, hey, that's not the way it works for the little guy. Explain that.
Well, I think the bank has an obligation to go to your 5,000 square foot house and make sure that it is, in fact, a $5,000 square foot house, if they consider that to be a material representation on which the loan is based. But if it's simply an estimate by an owner and it's wrong, I don't know that that screams fraud, especially when there's
Chandelle, the judge said it screamed fraud already. The judge said, look, you knew you had a 10,000 square foot apartment in Trump Tower, not a 30,000 square foot apartment in Trump Tower. Hasn't what did the judge say? That dog don't hunt.
Well, the judge has ruled against Trump already on the fraud counts. You're correct. The judge granted the summary judgment motion of the Attorney General. However, the fact that Trump may have overestimated the size of an asset or the value that somebody thinks the property is worth still does not undermine the argument that nobody got hurt here. The banks got paid. The banks made hundreds of millions of dollars on this transaction. The insurance companies got paid. So I say find a real victim.
How about the taxpayers of New York that basically didn't collect money on this fraud, this alleged, no, actually not alleged fraud, this fraud? How about the taxpayers of New York that say we're entitled to a chunk of that change?
The taxpayers are not out any money. They may say that he undervalued his property for purposes of property tax and that they're out money under that theory. But that's not what's alleged here. What they're alleging is that he overvalued his property. And the way banks work is they give you a better interest rate if the property is worth more than the loan to value ratio. So the higher the value of your property and the less money you want to borrow, you get a better interest rate. So that's what they're claiming, is the banks were defrauded. But again, the banks aren't complaining. The banks want to do more business with Donald Trump, I would suspect, because he has big properties that make big money for them.
So are you saying the system works for people that says, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'm willing to sell you as long as you don't take a look at it, and as long as you read the fine print in the contract that says, well, maybe you might want to check this out before you lend me the money?
If your bank statement or your statement of financial condition says, these are the best values that we can offer you at this time, and the bank doesn't do its due diligence and go out there and check out those properties, yeah, it's the bank's fault. But this really never comes up unless you don't pay your loans. The idea that you're going to go after everybody for overestimating their assets on a financial statement, well, I think you're opening up the floodgates of litigation because everybody overvalues their own assets when they're trying to get a loan.
So, Chandelle,
whether it's the guy who owns.
Yeah, answer this question for me. What about the argument that you're making, which, by the way, is a legitimate legal argument, no ifs, ands, buts about that. Why then is the DA racist? Why is the judge out to get Donald Trump? Why is this a witch hunt versus a typical court case that involves a billionaire who overstated his income, his financial holdings, and actually how many square feet and floors that he may have in his buildings and how much his golf course was valued at? Why is this a racist prosecution and a witch hunt?
Because this is Donald Trump, former president of the United States, and that's the way he works. He takes no prisoners. He's a gut-fighting street politician, and he hits you where it hurts, in his opinion. That's just the way he is. I think we've all come to understand that about him. Do I think that the prosecutor's racist just because she's going after Donald Trump? I don't think she's racist. I think she might be politically motivated. I think the judge is probably doing the best job he can. I don't think he's deranged, but I feel like the big fault here was in Donald Trump's attorneys. They should have asked for a jury trial on this and not left it in the hands of one judge who was a Democrat, a well-known Democrat. You know, in New York, they don't have nonpartisan judge races.
Chandelle, I used to cover organized crime, and you know what they all had in common? None of them ever did anything wrong. It was always, they're out to get me. I remember one saying he was an innocent fruit vendor. He was found guilty of killing 22 people.
Yeah, there's a big line, in my opinion, between murdering someone and overvaluing your property so that you can pay a bank millions of dollars in interest because that's the way business is done. If Donald Trump shot someone on Fifth Avenue, they need to put him in jail. But for these types of things, these white-collar crimes, why are we going after someone like this? I just don't get it.
That's why they have white-collar prisons, to go after white-collar criminals. Chandelle,
well, he's not going to jail for this under any circumstances. It's just money. They just want to put him out of business. And is that the way we want to do business in the United States of America? We want to go after people because we don't like them? I don't think so.
You know, as a journalist, I can't say it's just money. Chandelle, thanks for being with us tonight.